And this is our period of meditation, Sunday morning, April 25th, 1954, in the chapel on Sunrise Ranch. I thank God for the privilege of this hour of meditation. So many people tend to become so busy with so many things that they forget to take time to be holy. As we pause in the pattern of activity on this day of rest, let us remember to give thanks to God for the blessings which we have known and are sharing now. Let us have a moment of devotion. Our gracious Lord and Holy King, we thank Thee for the opening way that is before us, that we may walk therein with firm step, conscious of the purpose for which we are here on earth, letting Thy kingdom come and letting Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. For Thine is the kingdom, the realm of control, Thine we are, and Thine is the power. By which we may reveal the principles of being which Thou hast established in us. For revelation here on earth. And Thine is the glory of life which appears as we live in the fulfillment of that which Thou hast caused us to be. For we would not reveal on earth that which is not of Thee, that which Thou hast not brought forth, but rather we would give our capacities, our abilities, and our presence here in body and mind and heart to the fullness of the revelation of being which Thou hast ordained that we should make manifest in Thy holy name. Amen. We have been giving thought to the processes of thinking And we have taken note of the Master's word, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. We know that we may try and seemingly succeed for short periods of time under certain circumstances. We may try to express something other than that which is in the heart. But out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth does speak, whatever that abundance is. And this reminds us of another statement the Master made. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I was thinking about this abundance that is in the heart. The wholeness or the completeness of it, all of its aspects. Not just a selected part of what is in the heart, but out of the abundance of the heart. Out of the abundance of the feeling nature, as it functions in relationship to consciousness, and as it relates to the subconscious aspects of our being. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. If we begin to see God, it is reasonable to suppose that we will have drawn near enough to God to be enfolded in the spirit of His presence, to perceive His nature, to recognize His glory. And if we draw near, it is reasonable to suppose that God has in such a case received us into His presence. It is not enough for us to think about entering into His presence. If any man or woman goes into the presence of an earthly king or queen, it is because the king or queen is receiving that person. And so it is with us and our King. If we are in His presence, near enough to see God, it is because He has received us. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Human beings are prone to postpone until some future time this matter of being received into the presence of God. But we realize that it is possible, yea, necessary, if we are to fulfill our missions on earth, that we should be received into the presence of God while we live on earth. One who is to be received into the presence of an earthly king or queen goes through a certain amount of preparation. He prepares to be received, and he goes to the place where he is to be received. Proper preparation and proper position. For if the time came to receive a person into the presence of the king or the queen should arrive, and that person had neglected to be present in the place appointed, he would feel, or at least he should feel, that he had neglected his responsibilities. Here we have an opportunity to further examine our responsibilities in relationship to God. God's responsibilities to us are subject to much concern on our part, that God should provide us with all the things needful, that God should fulfill his responsibility, that he should provide the sun, the rain, and all the other things we may need. And human beings have been wont to imagine that it is needful that they somehow persuade God through supplication or sacrifice, persuading God to fulfill his responsibilities. This is an interesting factor in the psychology of humanity, for it is an admission on the part of man that he himself must be persuaded to fulfill his responsibilities. Otherwise, he would not imagine that there is the necessity of persuading God to fulfill his responsibilities. Because human beings beg or plead or otherwise seek to persuade God, they reveal that which is true of themselves. It is an admission that unless someone pleads with them and persuades them they will not fulfill their responsibilities. But if we have the right attitude toward God, it seems to me that we, his subjects, human beings aspiring to be citizens of his kingdom on earth, should rest in the assurance that God will fulfill his responsibilities. This is one thing which we might take almost for granted. For why should we even take thought about the idea that perhaps God will not do what he ought to do? That God will fail to do what he is supposed to do. If God must be persuaded to do that which is best in the realm of his creation, then we could presumably attribute to God the evil that befalls when we imagine that he has not done what is best for his creation. And this has been the human pattern. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And the distrust of God is revealed in the attitude which human beings use to persuade God to do what they want him to do. Theoretically, intellectually, we know this to be wrong. But the human tendency is to say, well, now I am assured that God will do what he should. I can leave it all to him. There is an admonition, and having done all, to stand. When we have fulfilled our responsibilities, then to stand. Not until we have fulfilled all of our responsibilities can we leave it all to God. There is the absolute necessity that we do something. There is a level of responsibility that is God's, but there is a level of responsibility that is ours. If it were not so, we would not be made manifest in the image and likeness of God. So the discharge of our responsibility is that which is needful. And all too often, it appears that the human being must be persuaded somehow, urged to do what he ought to do, that he himself may be blessed, that he himself may know the fullness of that which God has ordained for him. Sometimes a little child must be persuaded to take into its hands some gift offered by its parents. A little child may have to be persuaded to receive the gift. But as we develop maturity, as we learn to understand the laws and the principles of being, we no longer have to be persuaded to receive that which God offers us. Rather, in that pattern of maturity, we are concerned about discharging our responsibilities to the end that we may receive and be received. There is a blessing inherent in the outworking itself when we are received into the presence of the King. We receive a blessing when we are received. Now let us meditate for a moment on this matter of preparation and position. Position in the right place at the right time. It is here that we have obvious responsibility. If one were to be received in the presence of an earthly king or queen, he would not dress in his oldest, his dirtiest, his most ragged clothing to appear in court. He would dress to the best of his ability in a manner fitting for the occasion. The dress is the outer form of appearance. We have seen in our previous meditation that the invisible has no meaning on earth until it is given visible form. The thoughts of the invisible mind have no meaning until they are given form in words, deeds, or attitudes. The feelings of the invisible heart have no meaning until they are expressed in some fashion. They may be expressed vibrationally. That is, the feeling reveals itself in something which can be felt. Or it may find form in word or deed. The outer form of appearance is the clothing. And we have been admonished to wear robes clean and white. The outer appearance the outer form, the expression of our living. All too often, human beings tend to act as if they thought that since God looketh on the heart, if they are right, as they say, inside, if they have the right feeling, the right attitude, the outer appearance, the outer form doesn't need to make any difference. But it does. For in actual fact, whether it seems so to the human mind or not, that which is inside, the invisible, in heart or mind, is given forth. One does not have one thing inside and another thing outside. It may appear to be so for a few moments, now and again, but what is inside shows up on the outside in the form of life. And so we need to prepare. Proper preparation, giving the right form or appearance, the right dress. And how shall it be made manifest? Not by putting on airs, not by trying to appear to be something we are not, but remembering that the outer dress, the outer form, will be a true revelation of what is inside. We have seen people, we will say a lady of the uneducated class, who may not have a sense of the fitness of things in the matter of dress, and trying to dress up more or less elegantly something that she thinks is fitting, she may produce something that is somewhat atrocious in the eyes of others. She does not know that her ignorance of proper dress is revealed by her dress. She isn't aware of the fact. And she thinks that she is dressed all right. Perhaps it is too gaudy. Perhaps many things. The point is that whether the person knows it or not, his dress, the form of his manifest expression, does reveal what is in the heart, what is inside. Whether he knows it or not. And self-delusion will not change that basic fact. So preparation includes the process of learning what is right, what is the right dress, obtaining that right dress. Those who can afford it, when they are preparing for presentation at an earthly court, have their clothing made for the occasion. It has to be made. So with our dress. It does not just happen. It must be made. It must be produced deliberately. If a woman were to go into a dry goods store and see a bolt of cloth upon the shelves and say to herself, "That is what I want," if it were to become a garment in her household, she would have to buy or secure that cloth. Suppose she goes home with it and tries to imagine it into form. She neglects to buy a pattern. She neglects to spread the cloth out and to cut it and to deliberately shape it. She neglects to sew the seams and to fit it. The dress never appears. The cloth, the substance is there, but the dress never appears. She must be deliberate. She must choose the pattern. She must deliberately begin to cut and to shape and to sew. So it is with us. We cannot imagine the proper dress into being. We must deliberately do something about it. The substance may be at hand, but a part of our responsibility is in proper preparation, and that takes deliberate action. Having produced the proper form of appearance, of manifestation, so that there is a true revelation outside of the presence of the right thing inside, the next step is position, the proper place. But until this first step of preparation has been completed, why should there be undue concern about getting into the proper place? Are you going to go into the king's court and there make your garment to be sure that you will have your place when you are received at court? That would not show much faith or trust in the king. So it is with us. Going to the right place to be received is not our first concern. Our first concern is proper preparation, that we may have the proper manifestation in form when we reach the place where we shall be received into the presence of the King. If you were among the number of persons about to be received in an earthly court, would you, having entered the palace, start jostling and shoving and pushing to try to get a preferred place? Would you try to run up ahead of others? in the king's court, you would, I am sure, be particularly conscious of the necessity for courtesy, for consideration, of the niceties of etiquette. And yet, when human beings consider the matter of being received by the greatest king of all too often they forget court etiquette. They forget and tend to try to push, to shove, to obtain a preferred place. If we are afraid that the king will not take proper notice of us unless we are in the place which we imagine to be best, it shows that we do not have much faith in the king. If we have faith in his perception, in his correct function, we know that even though others may seem to obscure our position, he will see us. He will not pass us by. And if we are courteous, considerate of others, and show forth the spirit of the king himself in patience and in trust, he will notice, he will acknowledge, he will receive us. He will fulfill his responsibilities. But let us note this. It is utterly impossible for God to fulfill his responsibility toward us unless we first fulfill our responsibility toward God. Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the privilege of meditating upon these truths of being. That we may take heed to the fulfillment of our responsibilities. That we may be ready and in position to let the discharge of Thy responsibility have meaning to us. We know that Thy responsibilities shall be fulfilled. But such discharge of Thy responsibility will have no meaning to us unless we discharge our responsibility first. We would not distrust Thee. We would show forth out of the abundance of our hearts that which shall reveal the right dress, the right form of appearance, to the end that we may be received into thy presence, where we in turn may receive of thy presence in the expression of life. We remember thy word. That promise this step in fulfillment, extending welcome to the good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. Thou hast discharged thy responsibilities. So that thou couldst begin to receive the benefits of the expression, the fulfillment, the discharge of God's responsibilities. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Holy King, this we would do, that by proper preparation and proper position we may be received into thy presence and have a part in thy kingdom and thy power and thy glory, both now and forever. Amen. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace, because you are in that place where you may be received of him and receive from him the light of his countenance, the blessing of his presence.